Kevin Joy here from Big Body Ball, and we're here to talk about talent acquisition that's going on in Baton Rouge with Brian Kelly and LSU. So right now, their transfer portal rankings is number 1 in the country according to 247, and number 8 on On3. Now that's pretty important because look at last year, they were knocked pretty hard for not going using the portal and getting these pieces, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, to be able to plug in and play for the 2024 season. And we all saw how that played out. So last year they finished 9-4, 7th in the SEC. And it's just not good enough for LSU right now and for under Brian Kelly. So Brian Kelly in his 3 years there, first year he won the SEC West. Then the next year he had Jaden Daniels win the Heisman Trophy and essentially wasted that season because their defense was absolutely horrid. And then the following year, which was this year, 2024, they end up with another 4-loss season and a defense that left a lot to be desired. They started off the year with a loss to USC and really just it didn't have a great end of the year either. So that's been kind of the MO for right now for Brian Kelly and this LSU team is like good but not great. And that's not the standard at LSU, and that shouldn't be Brian Kelly's standard. And the defensive problems that they've had at LSU have been absolutely glaring. And last year, like I said before, when the transfer portal windows came around, LSU just looked at it and waved. And they said, all right, you know what? We're gonna save for our high school recruiting class for the following year, and we're gonna look at to the 2025 year as the year that we're gonna circle. Well, 2024 was pretty disappointing. And so you put all your chips into your 2025 recruiting class, and it was fantastic. It was elite. You had quarterback Bryce Underwood. He is then since decommitted. So you lost the number 1 player in the country, the number 1 quarterback in the country. He then decommitted to Michigan, and that just let loose a flurry of decommitments from this 2025 recruiting class from LSU. They had dropped significantly. They're now the 8th ranked class, so they're still solid, but they were up there, I think maybe number 1, or they're definitely in the top 3 when Bryce Underwood was there. They had 4 other blue chips decommit. They had 2 top 7 wide receivers that were committed to LSU at any given time. They had decommitted. So this 2025 class that they were really, really banking on, while still good, has been depleted of a lot of their top end talent. So now this transfer cycle has come around, and like I said, they are ranked number 1 in the country according to 247 and number 8 on On3. So they have a really, really great transfer portal class coming in. And you seem to have a new sense of urgency for LSU right now. They know they kind of messed up in the transfer portal last year. They had different disappointing results on the field defensively and, in the win-loss column last year. So they need to do a lot to get back to a place to where they want to be. And tapping into the transfer portal for this year to help fill some holes is going to be a good way to get back to where they want to be in an immediate sense of manner. So they have Garrett Nussmeier coming back. That's a positive for them. He's a fantastic quarterback. He did have some good numbers and some really good games this year. So that's great you're able to bring back Garrett Nussmeier. Now they're looking into the transfer portal, and they've restocked at the wide receiver position. So give Garrett Nussmeier some weapons on the outside to make some plays and to have to be big threats offensively. They brought in Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, who spent most of the year hurt, but when he is on and when he is playing, he's an electric receiver. So that's a really big get from Oklahoma. They also brought in Barrion Brown from Kentucky, also a really solid wide receiver. They went over to Blacksburg and brought in 2 guys from Virginia Tech, some of Virginia Tech's better players. They brought in Mansour Delane, cornerback from Virginia Tech, and Braylon Moore, an offensive lineman. So you had an offensive line in LSU last year that was the core and the best unit of that LSU team. So looking to restock that and bring in some big guys to help bolster that offensive line for 2025. Now, a lot of their transfer portal acquisitions have been focusing on the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. They also brought in Josh Thompson from Northwestern, one of the highest rated offensive linemen in the portal. They got Pat Payton from Florida State. this year wasn't maybe his best year, but Florida State had a horrific year this year. But the year before, their 13-0 year, Pat Payton was a really important piece to that defense, and he is an elite defensive edge. So that is a really good get for them. They also brought in Sadir Mitchell from Texas, another really big defensive lineman that can help bolster that line. So they have put a lot of emphasis and a lot of focus on the lines of scrimmage, and they're hoping to have a much better year in 2025. Now, like I said, there has been a new sense of urgency for LSU and how they're approaching the transfer portal this year, and especially what has happened since Bryce Underwood. I think they were relying on Bryce Underwood to be that next guy in Baton Rouge and to take them to the next level. Now that they don't have him, they're in a little bit of panic mode. And so they need to tap into this transfer portal to help fill some gaps and to get them back into national relevancy where they want to live and they want to belong. And while I don't think Brian Kelly's seat is like hot by any stretch, like it is certainly warming up. Like if you're losing Bryce Underwood, the number one recruit, like at the 11th hour, and that the result of that is a lot of the classes decommitting, and you haven't really met expectations or gotten to the next level in the 3 years that you've been there. All the while, one of the biggest reasons why Brian Kelly left Notre Dame is because of the belief that he was not able to recruit a roster that could compete for national championships at Notre Dame. Meanwhile, we have Notre Dame in the top 4 right now. Now, I know that the sport has changed in that short 3 years that Brian Kelly was over there, but he's at a place that you can recruit nationally and you can recruit to be a top-end contender for the national championship, and the place that he left is doing that. So, I think there's a lot to be said about Brian Kelly, and I think he's a fairly good coach. But he has not been meeting the expectations for LSU. So there has been a new sense of urgency for LSU to tap into the transfer portal and to really bring out the best of this program. So I'm excited to see where they're going to go in 2025. Follow Big Body Ball CFB on all socials.